Speak with clarity, 'cause there's too much noise around us. Or maybe it's just me. There's trash in the sea, yeah, but I'm just too dry to reach it. So speak sincerely.
Hello, welcome to Pursuit of Perfect System. My name's Terry Ellis. I'm here with Ron Locke from KEF and James Drummy from AWWE. Now, if you're a regular to the channel, you know I make loads of videos on HiFi and I'm really passionate about HiFi. But one of my other main passions, like a lot of you I'm sure out there, is home cinema. I actually got into home cinema, long before I got into HiFi. And I've tried to run two systems side by side in the same room for years and try and get the best out of both, which is normally quite a difficult process. Now, again, regulars to the channel will know I've got my own personal speakers are KEF reference speakers, and I've been running a 5.2 home cinema system for quite a few years. I've been out calibrating the Dirac Live of quite a few people's Atmos based systems, and when you sit and listen to it after, you can really hear the benefits of what Atmos brings to the table, and I personally realise what I've been missing. Now, in an ideal world, I would have KEF reference speakers all around the room in all base 7 positions, but I don't unfortunately live in an ideal world like a lot of us don't. So we have to look for alternatives to facilitate having more speakers in domestic rooms. Now, Ron is a bit of a KEF expert, having worked for the company for about 30 years. Almost 30 years, which is incredible when you think about it. So I spoke to Ron and asked for his advice. What is the best way to integrate KEF speakers into a room when you can't have floor standards all around? Because apart from is it the T-Series on walls? Apart from the T-Series on walls, KEF don't really make a set of on-wall speakers to match with reference or to match with R-Series. And he actually recommended to me to take a look at the KEF range of in-wall speakers, the CI. I assume CI is custom install. Custom install. And if you go on the KEF website, you look under architectural speakers and you'll see the whole range there. So he suggested actually that I come down to AWWE and speak to James, because as you can see obviously to the sides of us, we've got the brand new KEF reference in-wall speakers for starters, and AWWE have got a demonstration cinema which has been built from the ground up that's got KEF in-wall speakers all around and in the ceilings. It's a really impressive place. So I've come down here for a listen. There's a hell of a lot of stuff to look at and talk about, so I'm going to really hand you over to the guys and let them tell us about the cinema, about the speakers, why they've chosen them, why they've chosen to put them in the places they have. I'll then get a demonstration of the whole system and I can tell you a little bit about it afterwards. And I couldn't be any more excited. So thanks for having me down, guys.
Pleasure.
But I think before we start, I think we should probably introduce James and AWWE as a company. So if he can maybe just give us a bit of a history of the company or a bit of an explanation about AWWE, please.
Okay, AWWE, we are a trade distribution company for the custom install trade. So that means that anyone who wants to have a cinema built in their home will go to an installer, and we supply the installers. But not only do we just supply them, we also have these demo facilities for the installer to bring their customer down to.
James, obviously you've chosen to use KEF in-wall speakers. What was the reason behind choosing the KEF speakers?
With the KEF speakers, with a large room like this, the choice of KEF was fairly obvious. They've got great UniQ tweeters, which gives us a very wide dispersion of sound, which is great for every seating position in the room. All of the KEF in-wall home cinema speakers are THX certified, so that means that there is a certain standard of quality that you're going to get throughout the range.
Okay, so pretty much makes the decision semi-obvious.
Yes, indeed.
Okay, perfect. So obviously flipping that question over to you, Ron, when AWWE contacted you and said, look, we want to build a demonstration cinema, we've got this type of room, this sort of size, we want to make it obviously as good as we can be, how did you then approach selecting the right speakers for the job?
Well, that was pretty easy for us, because at the time when AWWE moved from their previous facilities to this facility, and James mentioned that he was going to build a bespoke custom install theatre system, it was at the right time when we were just introducing our full custom THX Ultra 2 spec product range. So, knowing the size of the room that James was looking to build, knowing the type of customer and installer that this company AWWE sell to, it was an obvious choice for us to get the custom installed Ultra Spec 2 speakers into that demo facility.
Okay.
Initially, it was with the 5160, the bigger of the two R series custom installed THX spec product, with a combination of the 3160s as surrounds and FX channels. Partnered also with the 200RR downfiring, in-ceiling, Atmos duty product. Since then, obviously, we've evolved that as an offering. And obviously, with the introduction of the new reference, the 5160 reference in wall, which has exactly the same approach and philosophy of our obviously traditional reference range. It was the AWWE was the obvious candidate to feature those products, and it's pretty much I think the only one in the UK at the moment that features the 5160 reference.
That's obviously the speakers you can see kind of sort of either side of us. They are, to be honest, when I heard about them, I actually got a little sneak peek of them at Munich. Funnily enough, they wasn't on, but they was obviously up in the wall, and I thought, oh wow, they look really nice. You know, the sort of speakers that I might buy. They're really, really lovely. And then obviously, when I heard that they was installed here, that made me even more excited, to be honest, to come and have a listen.
Yeah, so it wasn't, it wasn't by accident. We've got a very good working relationship with AWWE. They're a very good, strong business partner of ours, and obviously for us, it's very difficult to feature a product like this in, most installers don't have, shop fronts. They don't have demonstration facilities, but obviously being AWWE is a strong distributor for those types of customers. It was great news for us that they wanted and they were enthused about doing a room of this nature.
So while we're talking a little bit about the room, before we look at the speakers, obviously back to you, James.
Mm-hmm.
This is a facility that your customers, basically installers of home cinema systems, can come and bring their customers to get a full demonstration of just what the KEF install range can do. Is that correct?
Absolutely, yeah, and it's used almost daily with multiple demonstrations a day. So installers are using this, and we are getting great cinema installs off the back of it. This room just works so well because a customer really needs to hear this kind of system to actually invest that kind of money into their home cinema.
Yeah, it's very difficult to ask someone to spend that type of money on a product without physically seeing it or hearing it. Is a difficult sell for James's customers to come here to instill the confidence in their customers to not only see it physically but also to hear it, and to be fair, that kind of nails the message or the sale for those guys. So.
What I found really interesting, being an enthusiast, used to walking around boxes and boxes and boxes, coming into what is a really lovely room, by the way. So it's a very kind of tranquil room. It just feels very homely. Walking around and having no boxes and literally just having space, well, actually space I can stretch out, is a really wonderful thing. It's one of those sorts of things you don't appreciate necessarily until kind of you experience it. So yeah, obviously an in-wall range of speakers, or having an in-wall set of speakers installed to keep the room footprint and yet still have a sort of level of sound quality of that demo we had shortly before we made the video. It is a really appealing thing, even as an enthusiast who's used to having boxes everywhere.
Well, even when you say enthusiast, because obviously you like good sound quality, okay, and most people would probably think, oh, because I'm going the route of installation, I'm going to compromise on that quality. Yeah. Our philosophy is to make the best thing in any environment, whether it's a custom install speaker, or whether it's hitting a particular price point with traditional type products, or whether it's a full multi-AV on-wall package. Our philosophy is the same. Make it the best it can be to hit that specific need and price point. Now, this is taking everything to the extreme. This is full THX Ultra 2 spec, based around technology that exists within our traditional portfolio, but that enables us then to mix and match. So, if you still really enjoy your traditional 2-channel HiFi, but you don't want the hassle or you haven't physically got the space to build a system around that 2-channel system, custom is the way to do it. Whether it's at the extreme of this type of product or whether it's further down into more the budget line, we offer certainly drivers and UniQs that are based around speakers that already exist in traditional offerings. So you can mix and match and still maintain that KEF tonal balance and that strict DNA that runs throughout the whole sonic signature of KEF.
I think you touched on something really interesting there, Ron, because we was having a chat, wasn't we? Just obviously, again, just before we made the video, about the benefits of UniQ in a home cinema environment. Obviously, we can look at it a bit more when we look more closely at the speakers. But what you mentioned to do with the way UniQ disperses sound from speaker to speaker creates a really even and seamless transition.
It's much more enveloping, because what you're doing is you've taken two devices, effectively a high frequency drive unit and a mid-range, and combine the two, coincidentally. But what we've done is maintain two or overcome two really strong potential issues with typical discrete speakers, and that's overcoming time alignment and acoustic alignment. And by mounting the tweeter at the acoustic centre of the mid-range gives us two really strong benefits. Gives us that time alignment and acoustic alignment. But what it also means is the mid-range then carries the high frequencies as a waveguide effectively. So providing you're on axis and you can see the edge of the mid-range driver, you're effectively on axis to the tweeter as well, because it's coming at you exactly the same time on exactly the same acoustic alignment. So, which is fantastic for stereo speakers. Yeah. You maintain a very strong image between the two speakers, and it's a much wider image, so the high frequency detail is much wider. But also the flip side of that, by having multiple speakers with UniQ in an AV system, means that you don't necessarily have to sit dead centre of the room with your head in a vice, to get the full detail and benefit of all those speakers. You can sit off axis, you can still hear the detail coming from a speaker that's maybe at the extreme end of the room, and that really is a massive benefit using a UniQ driver in an AV system. Whether it's something as extreme as this, or whether it's something like a very small E-series package, which is the smallest UniQ that we have in an AV system, or whether it's going for multiple custom install products from the budget line, the philosophy is the same, and technically the device does exactly the same thing across all ranges and all price points.
Yeah, that's what's really interesting. Funny, one of the things that I've learned about KEF as a business is kind of the scaling down aspects of it. Everything's engineered to be scaled down. Yes. So, for example, stuff that's gone in the blade, like the UniQ, for example, I know that's been around for a long time, but it kind of gets scaled down, doesn't it?
Well, you have to appreciate that specialist projects like the Blade, like Muon, for instance, are uber high end, and even Reference Series, which is our heritage line. The engineers that work on those also work on the CI380. They work on the CI100, the 160. So all of these engineers give it exactly the same amount of attention to detail as they would a Blade, a Reference product, an R series product. It's the same engineers that net the whole thing together, and that's what gives us that strong DNA sonically throughout the whole range.
I think while we're talking engineering, it's the right time to pull out one of the speakers, because when you see a picture of a speaker, it's one thing. When you see the rear of one of these, obviously in wall speakers, it is really something else. So if we move over to maybe have a look at one of the speakers, because it blew me away when I saw it.